Internet! Welcome back to another fun-filled episode of the Comic Watchers Show. It's episode number 158 for those of you keeping track at home. We're your hosts, Michael Akins and Matt Meyer. Mike, how the heck are you this week, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm not too bad.
Listen, I gotta tell you, I'm worried about you because you're in Virginia, and right next door in West Virginia, there's some shenanigans afoot. And kids are being made to go to like evangelical prayer what's-its in their public schools, and it's got people riled up. I don't know if you knew this, but there was actually a walkout staged at the school today.
Oh wow! I did not hear any follow up on that. That's pretty.
Good. So these kids are standing tall in the face of lack of separation of church and state. So
yeah.
So yeah,
and that's the big thing. It's not the fact that worship and praise how you want, but as soon as you start getting all Taliban-y with it,
not even to that extreme, man. Establishment clause. Your and my tax dollars pay for that schooling. Ergo, some other jackass's religion, I don't care what it is, has no place there.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just like this thing with in Texas with the attack on the furries, the furry community.
Yeah, Texas and Michigan.
What is going on with that? Because Nick lives in Texas, and I feel like if he were here with us still, instead of slumming at Valiant and getting to work the magic of comics making all day.
Damn him for going into the industry.
Damn him for living out his life dream. I feel like he could explain this to us way better than we could explain this to anybody else. But man, Mike, I mean, this thing was weird with the beard.
Well, it's satanic panic all over again, man.
You got to tell people, man. People may not know what's going on with the furries in Texas.
Well, the thing is, it started out as a troll, apparently, like on like the school's Facebook parental group or something like that. And at a school board meeting, a concerned parent, which we're not making fun of the concerned parent, making fun of the fact that she didn't do her own research.
I feel like she deserves a little for that.
Oh yeah, she's definitely going to get that treatment. And so the big thing is along with schools teaching CRT, which they're not. They're also putting in litter boxes in the bathrooms for the students who are not only in the furry fandom but are identifying as cats.
Yeah, this is what we think is happening. That the people in the Texas think is happening.
Right, and then in Texas you have.
So I guess the furries are coming for your children now.
And the thing is, I don't know much about the fandom. I know that the few people that I've met that are in the fandom have been such sweet souls.
Oh yeah, look, there are people that have.
And the thing is, man,
and I don't even know if it's particularly a kink that we could call it as such. I think some might take a little offense to that term, so I don't want to put it out there like that. But what? Who cares? It's a thing, and it's totally harmless.
Harmless, totally, yeah.
It's ludicrous to think that anybody could possibly be so ignorant.
And the funny thing is
that the reason that the chairs at the high school cafeteria tables are getting lowered is to accommodate the butt plugs of the furries or whatever it was that they were.
It wasn't the plugs. It was butt plugs. You went there with that one. It was the to accommodate them eating on the ground out of like dog and cat.
Oh yeah, it was actually way sillier than the furry tail butt plugs.
Right, and the thing is like both superintendents of these school divisions, like sent out pictures and then had to immediately go out with like official statements that no, our tables don't lower. The students aren't eating their lunches on the floor out of animal bowls.
Mike, can you imagine? You're an educator, and you've risen to a particular pinnacle in your field as superintendent.
Yeah, you're a doctor.
Type of bullshit you're having to talk about.
Yeah,
to the parents of your students.
Yeah. Never mind that you're trying to maintain your school division and you're trying to maintain funding and budgeting and all. Then you got to maintain with the government overreach,
of the furry accommodations.
Right. So now I got to put litter boxes in my bathrooms for the kids. So, let's just add that. And it's conspiracy theory BS.
It is. And actually, you related it back to Satanic Panic.
And it's dangerous.
It's a direct descendant of that nonsense, right? It's
Absolutely.
the whole they are coming for your children mentality. It's always a different they, but somebody other is coming for your children.
Right.
This time it just happened to be some furries that use litter boxes and eat off the floor.
Probably the most harmless of fandoms, if there ever was a fandom. Yes. Leave the folks alone in the furry fan. Like, let them.
They're very peaceful people.
They are. Like like I said, the few I've met, absolute angels, absolute great and beautiful souls.
Sweet souls.
Just leave them alone,
Yeah, like Texas. Look, you have real, and this is the thing that gets me whenever something like this gets riled up, or some inane legislation along this line of stupidity gets talked about in the news.
Yeah.
Is, you know what? We have real issues in our state to worry about. Whatever state it may be, there are real things, and these are the things you're choosing to waste everybody's time on.
Huge weights. Like, not, and the thing is like, before I even, like, I texted you, I texted my wife, like, I'm like, there's no way this is on Twitter. And yeah, there's people that are in office currently that are delegates, and that are campaigning, for the primaries, to get in office. Mm-hmm. And they're running with the stories. Some of the representatives even have pinned, and I'm not going to go over who their names are because I'm not going to give them advertisement by any.
No, they don't need it.
No, but like, they're pinning tweets, and these pinned tweets are getting massive, retweets and requoted tweets and stuff like that. And it's kind of a two-way street, because even if you retweet this stuff to even kind of put a dig on it, whether it be funny, whether it be a very serious, I mean, you're still advertising for these people, and you're still advertising for that cause.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's garbage like this. That
it's kind of like, this is what it makes me think of, and you'll remember this from the late 90s.
Yeah,
when Limp Bizkit was first popular, right, in the late 90s, and you could go to like Hot Topic or someplace like that, and you could buy the button that had said Limp Bizkit, and it was crossed out. Well, and you remember that. Mm-hmm. And then it turned out that those buttons were actually manufactured by Limp Bizkit's record label. They were deliberately cashing in on people's hatred for that shitty band.
Yeah.
And
it worked.
I mean, it totally worked. I can't tell you the number of times, you just see those on somebody's backpack or whatever. And it's the exact same thing. Instead of doing that, you're just pinning this jackass that's scared of Big Bird's anal beads or whatever to their own level of popularity, and you're inadvertently helping them spread their nonsense. So, I mean, be mindful of stuff like that, especially with social media and Twitter. Like, even if you're doing it as a troll or something, just have that presence of mind. Like, what we don't want is to draw more attention to these morons.
Right,
like,
right.
What morons crave, Mike, and I know you know this, morons crave more attention. And they do that by being loud. And the more attention they get, the louder they become, because they're getting more of an audience.
Right.
Like,
and that's the thing, and that's what, like, kind of concerns me. I guess my biggest concern with this is obviously not that it's just a bunch of random, made up crap. It's the fact that people get dangerous ideals from this type of stuff.
Yeah, they really do.
What's going to happen is, like, some parent is going to show concern for their kids, by rights they should, and they're going to be like, well, my kid's not going to be indoctrinated and go to a school where they have,
into the furry army
stuff. Yeah. And so it's like, it's kind of like that dude, what's his name? Charlie Kirk, I think his name is, from Turning Points. I think he's out of Turning Points USA, but he was running his yap about something about trans kind of almost being like the next ectoskeleton type deal, and so they were like, yeah, it was kind of funny because he started talking about the indoctrination in schools and stuff, because schools are going to, if schools can teach your kids that they can identify however they want to, then why can't they identify as like an ectoskeleton? And so they started showing like, yeah, and people were getting all spun up. And once again, you start looking at social media, and it's like, there's going to be one of these parents that are going to sit here and take this stuff absolutely to heart. Probably, some folks, probably it's the same dude, the same person that's going to think that, JFK Jr. is coming back, and it's like
he's somehow coming back to help Trump.
Right. Like, bud, he's not coming back. And, and
like,
that's
he blowed up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's when bad stuff happens. That's when cats start, bringing, weapons and start doing stuff they're not supposed to be doing.
People get weird ideas.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
I mean, that's people getting weird ideas is why there's such a resurgence of domestic right-wing terrorism right now, because people are getting weird ideas. And I mean, that's a whole nother topic.
Right.
But it's ultimately spins from this idea that like some of these white supremacist types have this dual seed theory about Adam and Eve and serpents and mud people and like just batshit crazy stuff, but they firmly believe it. And it's just terrifying, man. It's just so let's talk about comics. Listen, there was a shocking turn of events in news break from DC today. It's like the most shocking news you could possibly imagine, Mike.
Settle down, because I may go into another crisis mode, and I can't just handle that again. I can't do it. So please,
you're going to have to, because DC is having another crisis. This one, though, this is dark. This is Dark Crisis.
Oh, so it's different.
So that makes it different from all the previous crises. Crisis on Infinity Earths, Final Crisis, Infinite Crisis,
American
Crisis. I don't even know.
American 513 Crisis,
For sure. And like, what was funny is this news was announced like it was the biggest thing since sliced bread. Oh my God, DC, here's their next big event. And I swear the news just hit social media with a resounding thud, right? Like, DC is going to have another crisis is right up there with saying water is wet. And nobody freaking cares at this point. And it kind of sucks. You know what? It kind of sucks for Josh Williamson and the other creative people involved, because Williamson's been slowly building towards something for a minute now. First with the Infinite
Frontier.
Infinite Frontier miniseries. Yeah. And then with the current Justice League Incarnate miniseries, both of which have been very entertaining.
Yeah.
And I've actually really enjoyed JLI. But, okay, great. These series are leading to some... Oh, it's another crisis.
Right. Now, however, now it could be, like how we talked about in the past couple of shows where, I said I ate some crow on all of... the symbiote stuff that came out, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
My concern with this, and I try to, I always try to find the greenest patch of grass to sit down on. But, with DC doing another crisis thing, I mean, it feeds that notion that when you read the discourse online and whatever, site you want to, read from, you get that discourse now.
Yeah.
Like you get it, because it's not like, we're not sitting here talking about, woke this. We're not talking about bad art. We're not talking about a lack of something. We're talking about another crisis. And it's all that stuff they did with Doomsday Clock, all that stuff they did with Dark Knight's death metal, all that stuff, sorry, they did with Dark Knight's metal. So they worked all this stuff, and they finally set everything up. They came out with Infinite Frontier and all that. You know, they rebooted everyone was happy. They cracked the code, and we were all like, yes,
we can get off of this infinite loop.
Right. And there for a while, story-wise, they even had me kind of, very, leaning very hard to DC. I was picking up every DC book, regardless if it was, part of that mini series at the relaunch or the new line of something, and picking up less Marvel. And now as time goes on, we kind of switch back, and now because Marvel is kind of leading the story, I want to say quality books, if you will, but definitely better storytelling. I'm feeling on the Marvel side, but with DC, here we go again. Like what? Now, granted, reboot and retell the story, but make it interesting. And it's one of these things that can make another Crisis interesting enough that fans are going to care past issues 2 and 3 and stick with a multi-monthly.
And that's kind of the problem. Is they've written and told this story, it's the end of everything, blah blah blah, so many times now that it's just old hat, right? Like, and ultimately, if you go all the way back to 0 Hour, right, which was the first big Crisis-esque event that happened after Crisis on Infinite Earths,
right?
You've got this perpetuating loop of all of these event crises series that are trying to fix and make sense of DC's very, very tangled continuity. And you just hit the nail on the head. Death metal, everything's now on the table. If you read it, it happened. That's really cool. We don't really know how it works, but we're telling you, the fans, it's cool.
Right.
If you read an issue of All-Star Squadron in 1983, it happened just as validly as did your Birds of Prey issue from 2008. Cool. I'm down with that. Everything is valid. Everybody, nobody's feeling butthurt that their stories, quote unquote, don't count anymore. I love it. It's an inelegantly elegant solution to a decades-old problem.
Right.
And now we're just rattling the cage again.
Right.
And why? Why? Because event comics sell. We know this. And this one at least has a kind of interesting premise that is couched on classic other DC stories, like the Great Darkness Saga is playing into this. Basically anything you've ever read with Darkseid is building into this. And then a couple weeks ago, we got the quote unquote bombshell right before this happened, not coincidentally written by Josh Williamson in Justice League 75. The Justice League themselves are allegedly going to die. Now, of course, they're not going to die, but maybe it might just be a circumstance where like the world believes they're dead or something like that. Whatever.
Sure.
As long as they don't think we're so stupid as to believe that they're actually going to kill the Justice League. Right. I mean, you know what? Have fun with the story. Yeah. But for the love of all that's unholy, I beg you to try to do something more original than, oh God, here's another Crisis.
Right. Because what's going to happen is it's going to sit here. It's going to start, with, present day. And then you'll read a few panels and then it'll go Earth 15, year 2087. And then you'll have a little mashup, and then you'll have
and don't forget Commandy will have a 3-panel cameo.
Right, yeah, gotta have the Commandy in there, yeah. And then you'll have 3 or 4 Batmans come together, and they'll be like, oh, well, we got to do this. Oh, well, what about Alfred? Oh, your Alfred's still alive? No.
Look, I'm going to tell you what. If Alfred comes back out of this, it will have been worth it because they completely dropped the ball not bringing him back and giving Tom King the middle finger when they did not bring him back at the end of Death Metal when everything reset.
Right.
Hard line in the sand.
Yes.
Go on.
And that's what's going to happen. And then then, dare we say, are we going to get these books on time?
Actually, DC's shipping has been pretty good lately. I don't have any reason to think that we wouldn't.
But I don't like Barry's comment on that one. Like that's harsh. And you can't talk about bats like that, buddy. That's gonna get you blocked on this page, man.
No, we love Barry. Barry talked Spider-Woman with us 2 weeks ago, and so we love him. He's a fan.
You think you know people.
You think you know a guy, and then he can barely handle one Batman now.
But no, I mean, do we want to read about
our own?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. But do we want to read about 4 Batmans arguing over how to kill the next demon?
Trick question, because Batman doesn't kill, and Batman always wins.
My connection's getting worse and worse.
Oh my gosh.
Choose your next sentence wise. But no, and I'm not knocking it, because I would be lying if I said I wasn't going to buy every issue. And
Daniel Sampier's on art. He's right. Great. I love that.
It's not like there's a bad creative team on this by far. No, I'm not saying that. Not. If anything, you buy it for the creative team alone, and then that way you can just have something for kindling if you need it. But you still, it's not because the creative team was bad by any.
I've never burnt or ripped up a comic.
No. Never in a million.
In 31 years of collecting, I've never hated a comic that much.
No. If anything, you just give it to, you just put in the Goodwill box if you got if you got some folks that are part of an unsavory group that you just can't seem to. But that's a different episode for.
That's a totally different episode.
Yeah, so, but no, I think this crisis. I don't see it, honestly. I don't, and this could be some bias. I don't know, but I don't see this turning out like an absolute carnage or something like that. Where or King in Black. Like the King in Black one shots were really, really well done, I thought, and then you always go into kind of, you're like, wow, the one shot, but it's like, I don't see this happening like this. I see it like I said, 4 or 5 Batmans arguing about how to kill, the 13 different dark sides. And when they kill the 13 different dark sides, oh, well, that's not the right dark side, because this dark side was in this newfangled Earth that we found. And, to be continued in Justice League Alpha 2.5, The Rebirth.
That sounded a little more Marvel than DC. But
write that down. Write that down.
Writing it down. But you know what? I mean, at the end of the day, I'll always judge the comic by its content. How well does it read?
Sure.
Even the most played out ideas can still turn into a good comic in the right hands.
Sure, absolutely.
And I gotta say, like, Josh Williamson is one of those writers I'm sort of back and forth on, but he's been very, very consistent with his storytelling buildup that's ultimately leading to this. So, I mean, you know what? Why the hell not?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not going to say I'm not going to pick up every issue. No, we're going to pick up every issue. I'm sure we're going to do, a couple of shows on at least one. Yeah. If not 2 or 3, if not a big wrap-up show and a big, cast-off show, whatever. But I don't know. You're not really going to kill the Justice League. And then you're going to sit here, they're gone and they're done. And, here's a crisis. And I don't know. We've seen this episode.
We've seen it. We just got over. I mean, and here's the thing that really just gets me, right? Is we haven't even explored, and I say we, I mean DC, explored what the new firmament coming out of death metal looks like.
Right.
What does it mean for everything to have happened? How does that work mechanically, right?
Right.
And we've had some really cool romps through other Earths in the JLI miniseries, and actually in Suicide Squad recently, Earth 3 played a really prominent role. There's a crossover coming up in the next month or so between that and Flash, and I think maybe Teen Titans Academy, called War for Earth 3 or something like that. Anyway, I'm like, the multiverse is something that DC is really, really leaning into right now, and I think I would rather, and I think a lot of fans would rather, that we just take the goddamn time to explore this and what this looks like. What is the terrain now? Give me a topographical map, Mike, and turn us loose. Give me the multiversal map. Actually, that's been in JLI, but you know, let's have some fun with this new status quo and figure out what it means before we have another stupid crisis.
Right. Well, it's you know, and I get it. They want that big hit, you know, on Free Comic Book Day and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. But
you know, I kind of like when books do this now for those, and I'm not saying they necessarily have to set off a brand new event necessarily, but if they just want to start using these books to tell like an individual story, or maybe like use it as maybe like a small kickstand of sorts, that's cool. That's dope.
Actually, in a lot of ways, that's kind of what Marvel's event comics have become, because they're so frequent now.
Yeah,
it's almost like its own thing, and like whatever, I can still go read Captain America or whatever, or Captain Marvel or Spider-Woman, and I'll still be able to enjoy it without trying to keep up with all this other crap.
Right, which was really cool when like during like King in Black and stuff, because
King in Black's a good example of that. Like, okay, there's whatever going on, okay, but
right, and you
I
may
can still enjoy Daredevil.
Yeah, and you might get a quick hint of, oh, you know, little editor's note, you know, this happened in King in Black, you know, 3, but you're not going, I am completely lost, you know. But no, I could just maybe, you know, hit up a quick wiki page or something like that, a quick internet search, and get my questions answered really quick, and, you know, head back to the comic.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just don't think Crisis. Am I going to read it? Yes. Do I think it's needed? I just think I just really think it's like you said, it's, you know, Event Comic Cell, and it's going to coordinate with Free Comic Book Day. It's going to be, you know, it's going to, you know, kick off in the summer, and that's when event comics, you know, start to
absolutely. It's tentpole season. Just ask any big studio.
Yeah, you could sit here and set a calendar reminder to it that made you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. It's clockwork. It's like sweeps week. But
is sweeps week still a thing?
I don't know. Did I just age myself?
You did. I don't think it's been a thing anymore. Look, I vaguely remember it too. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's a thing anymore because there's too many shows streaming.
Yeah, like Nielsen ratings, are they a thing anymore?
Yes, they're still a thing, but again, they're kind of useless because, you know, everything is streamed so much now. So
yeah, see, now I got to this week.
Well, while you're doing that, Mike, all right, we got to drop a dime on what we promised we'd come here to do, and that's talk Spidey for the fourth week. Fourth week in a row, we've done this in celebration of the Webbed Wonders 60th anniversary. Now, this week, we're talking about Spidey Villains, and not the symbiotic kind. We talked about them last week. They had their moment in the sun. It was very fun. I ran out of things to say. But we, you know, Spider-Man has one of, if not the best rogues gallery in comics. And I mean, it's frequently the argument you'll hear from fans is either Spider-Man or really, Box, I don't need that update to be known of right now. It's either Batman or Spider-Man who has the best. And I mean, you know what? We're not here to settle that debate because it comes down to opinion. That's cool. We just want to talk love on these characters, Mike. Now, this whole thing, I got to say, this whole thing started with Spidey when you challenged me to Spidey knowledge.
Yeah.
Who knew the most lore? So here's what we're going to do for this, Mike. I'm going to throw out an issue number, and you're going to tell me who the villain is that debuted in that, and then we're going to talk about the villain.
This is a total setup, you rat bastard. This is a total setup.
Hey, I have alcohol too.
I have water.
All right.
I'm drinking water.
Right. That was a can of water I saw a minute ago.
It was.
Mm-hmm. That was probably one of those hemp IPAs is what I'm thinking. So, without further ado.
You hippie. I am so bad with numbers. Here we go.
All right.
This is going to be horrible.
It looks like moonshine. It does. It is. It's bathtub moonshine. Okay.
I live in Virginia, not West Virginia, Barry. Shit.
Hi-oh. Amazing Fantasy number 15. Who's the villain?
Oh God. It's wrong, but I'm going to go with the Green Goblin, but it's not the Green Goblin.
It's not the Green Goblin. This is Amazing Fantasy number 15.
Ah, you might be doing the Burglar. Thank you, Barry.
It is the Burglar.
That was my next guess.
No, it wasn't. So let's talk about the Burglar, because the Burglar is obviously important. The Burglar's not really a character. Burglar is a motive with legs. And you don't get Spider-Man without the Burglar. I have read and reread Amazing Fantasy number 15 more times than I can count.
Okay.
And the Burglar's just this jackass who wanted some loot. And because he's faceless, and he remains an important reminder for Peter Parker all times. Mm-hmm. So if the Burglar gets a name, let's Joe Bob.
Sure.
If he's Joe Bob, then Peter's mission becomes avenging, or not avenging rather, but preventing other people from suffering the same fate that Uncle Ben did at the hands of Joe Bob. It's singular, okay? Right. But with the Burglar not having a name, it changes things, because it's not Joe Bob anymore. The Burglar could be anyone. It becomes larger than just one man.
Right.
It becomes unfortunate happenstance, because that's what happens to Uncle Ben. It's unfortunate happenstance. It's unfortunate happenstance that could have been prevented if Peter had just stuck his foot out or something. But nonetheless, so that's kind of where I'm at on the Burglar. And if you come around all the way around to Amazing Spider-Man number 200, which is the big Spidey runs afoul of the Burglar again story by Marv Wolfman, and I think Ross Andrew, but don't quote me on the artist. Possibly Keith Pollard, actually. Yeah, I think it's Keith Pollard. But anyway, if you come around, that loop gets closed. Spider-Man gets closure with that Burglar when he meets him again. Mm-hmm. So you can basically say, because of the Burglar, Amazing Fantasy 15 through Amazing Spider-Man number 200 is a 3-part story, a 3-act play with the beginning, middle, and end, where the end closes the story loop that was begun in Amazing Fantasy 15.
That's fair.
So anyway, the Burglar, he's just some asshole, but he's the most important villain in the entirety of Spider-Man, because we don't get Spider-Man without him.
Sure. And I think, and to touch on what you talked about earlier, he was that faceless bad guy.
Yeah.
And really fits into any, and thanks to Cody for this word, narrative, if you will. The Burglar takes on the Jackal. The Burglar could be, Norman. It could be it could be anybody. It could be Eddie Brock. And, the Burglar continues to haunt. He lives. I think he still continues to live rent free in Peter's head.
Absolutely. All right. Moving on. Now, Amazing Spider-Man number 1 has one supervillain and one not so supervillain that debuts.
God, what does Barry say?
He said, well, no, he was touching, but it kind of made him more iconic that he was faceless, nameless than Joe Chill. And actually, to that point, depending on what continuity you're in, it's either Joe Chill that killed Martha and Thomas Wayne, or the robber had no name. So either way, yes, totally agree with that. But okay, God, I've done it again. Amazing Spider-Man number 1, Mike. Who's your villains? One super, one not. And actually, on the second one, the not so super one, I'll say more of antagonist than villain.
It's not It is the Chameleon.
It is the Chameleon.
Yes.
Chameleon.
Yeah.
Yes, the Chameleon. Now, at this point in the Chameleon's history, he's just some asshole that has rubber masks.
Huh? And the Tinker, yeah, that's right. The Tinker.
Are you sure, Barry?
Is it the Tinker? Hold on, now I gotta look. Now I
gotta Tinker. No, J. Jonah Jameson is the other one.
Okay.
J. Jonah Jameson makes his debut in Amazing Spider-Man #1, and he said nope. So yeah, J. Jonah Jameson, of course, perfectly embodied by J.K. Simmons in the most perfect and flawless casting in any superhero movie ever. I will accept no arguments to the contrary. The Chameleon, I don't know. I mean, as far as like the iconic Spidey villains go, Mike, he's kind of down there for me because he's just some asshole for a while that changes masks.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, that's a product of a comic that came out in 1962. But at the same time, at the very least, eventually he was able to shapeshift. And he became boyhood pals with Craven, which was, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Chameleon kind of reminds me of Mr. Freeze. He's just kind of, but every time he shows up, it's just, if we're doing the Spider-Man Batman thing, then yeah, I'm just kind of, I don't know, like you said, they're just, I don't know, they're just kind of that and I don't want to say unimaginative, but you don't get the same feeling like when you see like a, you know, like you see like a goblin or something like that, or you see like a tackle or something. The Chameleon is just kind of,
he's just some guy.
He's there. I mean,
by virtue of the way Steve Ditko designed him, he's supposed to be in this without features. And JK. Barry, to answer your question in terms of brothers, their Chameleon was brought in as a young boy to the Kravinoff household, and like he came to think of Craven as a brother, but at the same time, Craven was kind of like that shitty older brother that you love them, but they're also horrible to you kind of relationship. Very uncool stuff, but they're not related by blood.
Like healthy, toxic relationships.
I wouldn't say healthy, but no. Okay. We're moving on.
No.
Amazing Spider-Man #2.
Amazing Spider-Man #2. I don't know. It's too much dead silence. Go.
Oh my gosh, it's the Vulture.
Is that the Vulture?
He flaps around. Yes, he flaps around and robs banks. And because Spidey is still very young at what he's doing, this is very perplexing for him as to how he could possibly overcome this old man who, the way Ditko draws him, looks like to be an octogenarian, and who flaps around. The Vulture's cool. Like, one of the things I love about the Vulture is the fact that he is so unassuming. He's like this old dude. Like, you wouldn't think if you saw him on the street that he's the threat that he is, but he's whip smart and he's vicious. And even though he was temporarily de-aged for a little while in the 90s, and that took a lot of his edge away, and regardless of the fact that at some point in time, there was a younger version of the Vulture flying around too. I think he might have come about in the late 60s. Yeah, real briefly. He wasn't around for a while. He's kind of stupid. Nobody liked him. And then we've also got the terrible Tinkerer in.
When was the terrible Tinkerer? Are you? Oh, Matt, you're frozen. Oh. Are we still live?